to M4. M4 is said to be broad money. तो ये 4 methods है जिससे RBI money supply in the market measure करता है. And why RBI is measuring money supply? Because money supply is directly related to inflation and also to growth. How money supply is related to inflation we have understood in the last lecture. We'll see how it is related to growth. See, we have calculated GDP to the formula of C plus I plus G plus X minus X. So what was C plus I plus G plus X minus X? So what was I here is nothing but investment by firms. And this investment by firms depends on money supply, and on this money supply depends inflation, and on this inflation again depends GDP. So I hope you understood how GDP, inflation and money supply are related. So that was an important thing which we understood in our last lecture. After that we moved on to financial intermediaries which provide money supply or investment to this company. So here we understood what is the basic difference between banks and non-banks. We took examples of non-banks like NBFC, AIFI or primary dealers. We also understood that non-banks have few services which are provided by banks but not all the services. So this is the basic difference between banks and non-banks, and the regulating authorities for banks and non-banks is also different. In case of banks, RBI is the central authority which tries to regulate the banking system. After that, we also understood what is the difference between cooperative bank and commercial bank. We saw that commercial banks are made for profit, whereas cooperative banks are made to cater the necessities of its members or minorities. After that, we tried to understand what is NBFC because it is regularly in news. We also regularly hear about how NBFC is playing an important role in the banking system or financial world today. And non-banking financial companies or institutions are differentiated through their functions. And we tried to understand how banks and NBFCs are different and why NBFCs play an important role in the economy. Because there are few sectors where regular banking system cannot do and NBFC plays an important role to cater those areas. In further part, what we try to understand is how banking system is controlled by RBI and how RBI is an important. And in understanding the banking system and financial intermediaries, we understood the roles and functions played by RBI. How RBI is said to be the banker's bank. It regulates the banking system. It is also a manager of foreign exchange. It also prints money. So there are many rules and functions we understood about the RBI. After that, we also try to understand how RBI is involved in the monetary framework agreement. We understood that government and RBI have come together and formed an agreement to control the inflation and growth rate of our country. Both the stakeholders, that is RBI and government, play an important role and it affects them how inflation and growth rate is considered. So therefore, monetary framework agreement was formed to decide about the parameters or the range in which inflation should be controlled and growth must be targeted. So in monetary framework agreement, it was an agreement between RBI and government of India. And to implement that agreement, we formed a monetary policy committee, which was chaired by RBI governor. We saw it consists of 6 members, 3 from RBI and 3 from government of India, which regularly meets over the years and analyzes the economic situation of our country and uses to control the inflation and growth of our country. The targets set by the monetary framework agreement are achieved by the monetary policy committee through quantitative and qualitative things, which we'll try to understand in our coming lecture and in an easy way. Most of the questions are based on this tool and its impact and how RBI or the government is trying to face the different situations which are arising in the economy and controlling the inflation and promoting the growth of our country. After that, we try to understand what are the different money supply control tools, that is quantitative and qualitative tools. We gave a brief overview of available tools. In this lecture, our main intention is to understand these tools in a very easier way and build a concept so that if the question is asked in any which way, we will be able to analyze the basic situation in the market and take appropriate steps or select the right answer from all the options. So let's begin with today's lecture. This will be very easier lecture. You don't have to take any stress. सब पॉइंट्स को लिंक करके आपको इजीली कंसेप्ट को बिल्ड किया जाएगा. कोई बर्डन नहीं है, कहीं से कोई कंसेप्ट नया नहीं आने वाला. मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स यू ऑलरेडी नो. वी जस्ट ट्राई टू लिंक देम एंड लर्न थ्रू दिस लेक्चर. सो द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन दैट कम्स टू माइंड इज व्हाई आरबीआई इज मॉनिटरिंग मनी सप्लाई टू कंट्रोल इन्फ्लेशन. इसके पहले लेक्चर में हमने देखा था कि हाउ मनी सप्लाई एंड इन्फ्लेशन इज अफेक्टिंग ईच अदर, बट देयर इज आल्सो अ थ्योरी व्हिच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस दैट आरबीआई बिलीव्स दिस, दैट इज नथिंग बट क्वांटिटेटिव थ्योरी ऑफ मनी. सिंपल टर्म्स में आपको बताऊं, क्वांटिटेटिव थ्योरी ऑफ मनी ये कहता है कि जब भी मार्केट में मनी सप्लाई ज्यादा रहता है तब prices of goods and services is high. That means whenever in the system there is more money, the prices of goods and supply will increase. A gross example which I want to share here about the quantitative theory of money is, let's say if you want to purchase a coffee, you have two options, that is a 5-star hotel or a restaurant. The coffees are similar, not same but similar, but whenever a person is wealthy, that means he has more money, what he will prefer is 5-star restaurant. That means the coffee purchase there will be at higher value. So in this example, you saw that a person having more money supply will spend more for the goods and services. These are directly related. Therefore, if you go to the quantitative theory of money, it states that the general price level of goods and services is directly proportional to the amount of money in circulation. Example they give, if the amount of money in an economy doubles, then the quantitative theory of money predicts that the price will also double. So this is an important reason why RBI feels that controlling or monitoring money supply is important in controlling the prices of goods and services, that means inflation. Now the question comes is, we have measured the money supply, but we need to understand what are the sources of money supply to control it. So the sources of money supply, first source is said to be high power money. So what is high power money? It is the money which includes currencies, notes or coins, or deposits with the government or reserves with the commercial banks. The first source of money supply is the money created by central bank, that is Reserve Bank of India, and it is also said to be high power money. High power money includes currencies, deposits with the government, and reserves of commercial banks with the RBI. So this is the first source of money supply in the market, which is created by the RBI itself. So controlling it is very much easier. Second source of money is created by the banking system. How is that created? So banks create money supply in the process of borrowing and lending transactions with the public. So money created by this commercial bank is said to be credit money. You will be confused that RBI can print money, but how come banking system can create money in the form of credit money? Let's take an example. So to understand credit money, here is a simple example. If you have a high power money and there is no banking system involved, if you have 1000 rupees in the economy, what will happen is, so this 1000 rupees can be used to purchase a good, that is a table. And here the supply of money from the market is consumed. Whereas whenever there is a bank involved in the economy, what will happen is 1000 rupees is used to purchase a table. Then the owner of this table, what it does is it keeps the money in the form of deposit in the bank. So this 1000 rupees is deposited in the bank. Now bank what it does is it gives loan of rupees 800 and it keeps 200 with itself as a reserve in case of emergency. So this 800 loan is given to some another individual, and that individual try to purchase another good, that is share here from the 800 rupees. The money received by the owner of this share now will deposit the same 800 rupees in the bank. And like this, you can see how the same 1000 rupees is used to purchase multiple items in the economy. So the money created here is said to be credit money. And it is very much important for the RBI to control this credit money if it wants to control the inflation in the market. Here is an example of overview how 1000 rupees can create a credit money of 4000 rupees in total. So this is very important thing for us to understand that credit money highly affects the inflation in the economy and also the growth rate in the market. Here you can also see another important concept of reserve, that is cash reserve. These reserves are used in the case of emergency and cannot be used in the lending business by the bank. After understanding how banking system and the credit money is important for RBI to control the money supply in the market, RBI tries to control the banking system through different levels. What it tries to do is, in the day-to-day functioning of the bank, RBI has multiple control tools which it can use. So to understand the different control use, we will have to understand the functioning of the banking system and how RBI uses these tools in the banking system to control the credit money and ultimately controlling the inflation. Taking the example of the banking system, we will understand how RBI has different tools where it can control the money supply. We will not directly jump to the tools which are used by RBI. We will understand through the banking system how RBI can control this money supply. Firstly, we all know that banks receive deposits from individuals and customers, and out of the deposit received, it has to be reimbursed to the depositor. So for that, what it does is it gives loan to the market. Now, out of the total deposit received, let's call it as NDPL. So it is nothing but net demand and time liability. So if the net demand and time liability of the bank is, let's say, 1000 rupees, what RBI controls is the percentage of reserve that bank should keep. In this case, the RBI has kept the reserve to be 4%. That means out of the 1000 rupees, bank have to keep 4% of the money with the RBI and only can lend 960 of the balance amount in the form of loan. So here RBI can control this reserve percentage and also differentiate amount available for the market. So by giving you an example, if the RBI continuously sells to 10%, what will happen is the amount to be kept with RBI will be increased to 100 and the loan amount will reduce to 900. That means the money available in the market will reduce. Therefore, the credit money will also be reduced. So this is one method how RBI is involved in the banking system and control the money supply. That is by controlling the reserve. Another thing that RBI does is RBI is said to be banker bank. Whenever bank needs a what it will do is it will go to the RBI and borrow funds. In that case, what RBI does is, so this is an RBI. We have bank here and we have bank. So Whenever bank comes to the RBI and wants some loan, RBI will give it, for example, at 6%. What bank will do is, it will give loan to the customer at 8%. So what you have seen is 6% from the RBI, bank gives to the customer at 8%, 2% is the profit of the bank. Now, if RBI wants to control the money supply here, what it will do, it will give bank loan at higher interest rate. Let's assume at 8%. So what will happen is bank will give to the customer at 10%. When the interest all will be higher, what will happen is customer will demand less. Therefore, money supply in the market will also reduce. So ultimately, the purpose of RBI to control the money supply has affected by controlling the interest rate at which RBI gives loan to the bank. Opposite is also true. Sometimes RBI wants to increase the money supply in the market. So what it will do is it will reduce from 6% to 4%. The bank will also reduce to 6%. So what is happening is ultimately loan available to the customer is cheaper rate. So more money will be borrowed from the bank. Therefore, money supply in the market will increase. So we have seen two methods. How RBI is involved in controlling the money supply. First is reserve. Second is loan to the bank in the form of interest. Thirdly, there is another important function of the bank which hardly few people. That is, bank is also involved in trading of bonds. Apart from the lending and deposit business, banks is also involved in the trading of bonds. So what is happening is, let's say this is bank, and it has two options of the deposit it raises. Either it can be loan or it can purchase securities, let's say government securities. It is also a kind of bond. So what will happen is, let's assume a scenario, if the market is volatile, that means it is a risky market, and bank, let's say, has a deposit of 100 crores. So what will happen is, if the market is risky, bank will try to purchase a safer option that is in the form of government securities. Government securities provide fixed interest rate. So in this case, what bank will do is, it will keep 20% or 20 CR as reserve, and it will invest 60 CR in government securities and only 20 CR in the form of yield. So what will happen is, loan available for the market is less, therefore money supply will be controlled, and bank will invest in government securities. So in this case, the trading also affects the money supply, and therefore RBI also controls the trading of bonds in various operations or tools, like in this case, open market options. What RBI does is, it sells or purchases with government securities, treasury bills, or cash management bills in the market. These operations or these tools help RBI to control market liquidity by both buying and selling. Money raised in the form of government securities is used by government for expenses, and this is done regularly by RBI. We can consider another scenario where market is in good condition and there is boom in the market. So what will happen is, banks will try to give more loans because there are high chances that this loan will be repaid. So out of the 100 crores, 20 crores kept as deposit, banks will invest 60 crores in the form of loan and only 20 crores in the form of government securities. So the money available in the market now increases. That means money supply in the market will increase. This is again affected by the policy of RBI. I hope you have understood how the banking system RBI plays an important role to the reserve, interest rate, and bonds. And therefore, what we have done is, we have tried to segregate or categorize all the quantitative tools available with RBI in the form of different categories. For example, we have created three categories for you to remember easily all the tools and not mix them up. Therefore, it will be easier to solve questions and we never confuse between different tools. First category which we have created is of reserve, second is of interest rate, and third is of bond market. What are the tools RBI uses in the form of quantitative tools? We'll understand all the tools in detail and how it affects the money supply, inflation, and how RBI uses them in different situations in different ways. So the tools here are, for reserve we have two tools, cash reserve ratio or statutory liquidity ratio. For interest rate category, we have three tools, that is bank rate, second is liquidity adjustment facility, we have added the rate word here. Third is marginal standing facility, again rate word is added so that we remember that these tools belong to the category of interest rate. Now, for bond market category, we have open market operations and market stability tools, which are all related to government securities trading. We understand each category step by step and in that category and all the tools which are used by RBI. So let's start with the category of reserve. Reserve, in simple words, is nothing but a safety or emergency fund which is kept aside by the bank and used only in the case of emergency. So it cannot be lent in any form. There are two types of reserves which we need to understand. First is cash reserve basis and another is statutory liquidity. Understanding cash reserve basis. So both are reserves. That means some fund has to be kept aside from the amount of deposit the bank receives. Let's consider an example. In this case, the bank receives NDTL, that is net demand and time liability of 100 rupees. Out of that, RBI has instructed bank to keep the CR and invest 4%. That means what? Bank has to keep 4% of all the NDTL, that is rupees 40, with the RBI. And
What
the balance amount can be used to provide loan to the market.
did they do to you?
The amount in the CRR is to be kept with RBI.
You're safe now.
And RBI does not give any interest
We need to
or
move.
return to the reserve that is kept with the RBI.
We can't.
What you have to remember
They'll
is
catch
the
us,
CRR
just
amount
like
that
the
is
others.
40 is to be kept
This
with
is Lord
RBI,
Sakai.
and RBI does
He'll
not give
protect
any
us.
interest or return to the amount of reserve that the bank keeps with the
I
RBI.
need you to trust me,
So this
Toka.
is cash reserve. When we
I
study
need your
statutory
help.
liquidity reserve, we'll be able to understand the difference between CRR and SLR. Now, what happens in
That's right, my
SLR?
lord.
Again, the percentage of reserve is decided by the RBI. Let's say the bank has a deposit of 1,000 crore. Out of that 1,000 crore, RBI decides to keep the SLR to be 20%. So the bank will have to set aside 200 crore and only balance of 800 crore can be given as loan. The question here is, what will happen with this 200 crore? Firstly, the bank will have to keep this money with themselves and not with the RBI. CRR में क्या था? RBI के पास money रखना था. But in case of SLR, they will have to keep it with themselves. In CRR, the amount was kept in cash and cash equivalent. In SLR, very often, ये 200 crore को आप either in the form of cash रख सकते हैं, gold रख सकते हैं, या government securities रख सकते हैं, या इन तीनों भी form में रख सकते हैं. Advantage is this, that if you keep it in gold or government securities, there is chance that bank owns something from this SLR reserve. So in case of CRR, आप reserve से earn नहीं कर सकते थे. In SLR, there is chance that you can earn from this reserve. Also, in CRR, the amount has to be kept with RBI, whereas in SLR, the amount will be kept with the bank themselves only, but in different form. Now, these reserves are working in combined nature. We have studied them individually, but in real world, CRR and SLR work together. So if you have 1,000 crore deposit, then SLR is 20%, CRR is 4%. That means 24%
There's a
has to
gate
be kept as
nearby.
reserve.
Then
Out
that's
of
where
that,
we break
4%
out.
with the RBI and 20% with the bank in different form, either gold, securities or cash equivalent. So out of the 1,000 crore, 240 crore is what kept with the RBI and bank themselves in the form of reserve. Remaining 750 crore
They
is kept
found
with
the slave.
They'll kill us. We
now
need
the
to
question
hide.
comes
No,
is how
keep moving.
the RBI
can
is
climb those
controlling
crates.
money supply in the market by controlling these things like SLR and CR. So I will give you an example. Let's say the SLR of CRR is increased from 24% to
Where are we going? Kenji's
So what
waiting
will
for us
happen
at a
is
crossroads.
the amount
Kenji's
which is
with you?
available
If
to
he
be
made it
distributed
out
as
alive.
will reduce from 760 crore to 700 crore. So again, when the money supply in the market reduces, what will happen? We have understood. If the money supply reduces, the inflation in the market will also reduce. And growth will also reduce. How the growth will also reduce? We have seen the GDP formula where we have seen it is P plus I plus B plus X minus X. Let I, here is nothing but investment done by the bank. And if the firms are not provided with sufficient amount of money in the form of loan, they will not be able to invest in the market and GDP will also reduce. So what we have seen is CRR and SLR, which will increase, what will happen? Money supply will increase. And what will inflation? Decreases. Growth rate decreases. So growth is decreases. Fundamentally, that RBI is less to control the money supply. Understanding the comparison between CRR and SLR. There is one more point here I want to convey, that the communication network brings in market. Now, there is situation
Help
where
me, Lord
bank is not
Sakai!
able to keep the reserve as instructed by the RBI. So in that case, what will happen? Instead of 24%, the bank is going to be taking 22%.
I
So in that
almost
case,
died.
there is penalty
Thank you.
applicable on the bank by the RBI, and that penalty is going to the bank rate. We'll understand in the further lecture what is bank rate and other different types of rates which RBI and banking systems use. Moving ahead, understanding the comparison between CRR and SLR, I have repeated multiple times. One more time we'll do this. Firstly, CRR is the amount of money that banks are obligated to par to the central bank. Basically, CRR का होगा with RBI. SLR fixed par with the bank just. So SLR is the amount of money which the banks are required to maintain, not par, but maintain. As liquid asset in the form of cash, gold, or any security. Another important thing which you have to remember is return. Bank don't earn any interest for the money kept as CRR. There is chance that bank can earn interest or return on the funds kept as a SLR. Now, after understanding the concept of CRR and SLR, RBI closed research details, I have few questions for you from the practical examples which will help you to clarify the concept. Question here is, if you are an RBI governor, what will be your action in the following situation? Very important and interesting. Starting with the first scenario, where there is high inflation in the country. So inflation ज़्यादा है means what? We have understood quantitative trading money क्या कहता है? Inflation and money supply are directly related. RBI governor or government work is to do opposite of the market situation. अगर market में money supply ज़्यादा है, so what is the role of RBI governor?
Horses,
To control
they're
money
coming
supply.
for
That means
us. Get in the
reduce
tall grass.
हम money
Stay
supply
down.
reduce करना है तो करना है. This is the only rule which you have to remember. Money supply अगर आपको कम करना है, if you want to reduce
Kenji!
money supply,
Kaka!
CRR
You made it!
हमने
Were you
example
followed?
भी देखा.
No,
But this is
but we
just
can't
some
go
rule
back to my
you have to
place.
remember.
It's
Sometimes
crawling with
in Indian countries,
Mongols. We
concept
should go.
clarity is very
We have
much
to put some
important,
distance
but also
between
strict
us and
character.
Azumobei.
So in this case, money supply is to be reduced. What you have to do is, remember, CRR and SLR has to be increased. Only and only simple rule which you have to remember. Opposite is also true. money supply को बढ़ाना है, तो CRR SLR को क्या करना पड़ेगा? कम करना पड़ेगा. So key and important rule which you should remember out of the
Haven't seen
total
a
learning
Volvo
about the
since
result.
dawn.
कि जब भी money supply
think we're
money supply
clear.
activity,
We need to figure out where to go
CRR and SLR
next.
को क्या करना पड़ेगा? Increase करना
There's a
पड़ेगा.
place
So
up
coming back
ahead
to our
where you can
first
see
scenario,
most of his
where
house.
high, let's say
Everyone all
high
right?
inflation in the market.
I could
So
use a
inflation
drink
is high. That means money
and some
supply is
sleep.
also high.
I can
What
help with
RBI
one of
government
those.
does always opposite. Money supply को कम करता है. And how
Taka,
money supply can be reduced?
you've been quiet.
CRR and SLR को क्या करना पड़ेगा?
First time in days, I haven't
So
felt like I
CRR
was
and
about
SLR
to
has to
die.
be increased. The first scenario is solved. Second
My lord,
scenario, clearly there, money
I am
supply is
grateful.
more in the market.
But
That
how
means
do you
what?
know
If money
Kenji
supply
and
is
my
more,
sister?
what is the rule of RBI
I owe
government?
you
Is the
not my
opposite.
life.
Reduce the money supply. How to reduce money supply? CRR,
have something in
SLR has
common.
to be increased. Some rules, golden rules, remember. Third condition, deflation in market. So what is deflation? That means the prices of goods and services is falling. If the prices of goods and services is falling, that means money supply is also falling.
I'm
If
not
money
built
supply
for
has
riding
fallen,
all
what is the
night.
aim of RBI? Is to do the opposite. That means RBI
Komatsu,
wants
it's
to
just
increase
over
money
that
supply.
bridge.
Money supply को increase करना है. CRR, SLR क्या होगा? Some rule को
They have a
opposite.
forge.
CRR, SLR
One of the
has to be
best on the
reduced.
island.
We can
Good
link
place
it
to
with
make
practical
tools.
life. Let's say
Maybe something to
CRR
get Jin
and
over the
SLR has
walls
been
of
reduced.
Castle Canada. What do you say, Taka?
Reserve
My
के
lord,
bank को रखने थे. It will
I'll
also
do
be.
anything
Means
to
out
repay
of
you for
240
freeing
crores.
me.
Let's say
Thank
if it is reduced to 200 crores.
Taka, Kenji,
Means bank can give loan of
get
how
some
much?
rest.
800 crores.
We can't
It's
stay
more
here
to be
long.
provided. More money will be there in the market. More money is there. What will happen is the prices of goods and services will increase.
How
That
are you
means
doing?
inflation. So deflation can be reversed
I have
by
my brother
increasing
back.
the money supply. And how money supply is
He's
increased?
shaken up.
By reducing CRR.
Can you get him to Komatsu in
So I
one
hope
piece?
you have understood this third
With
scenario.
food and rest,
Fourth
he'll be
scenario is
fine.
rupee is depreciating. So if rupee is depreciating, how can
Your
RBI
brother wasn't the
control
only
the situation
prisoner in
by
his own
controlling
bay.
CRR and SLR? So you have to
You're going
connect
to
the
save
dots.
them.
Rupee is depreciating in what?
And make their captors
So let's
suffer.
say they are
Good.
importing.
Right for Komatsu Forge. I'll join you when I can.
Now,
Jin,
the price of $1 earlier was
thank you.
75 rupees. But since rupee is depreciating, what is happening is the price of $1 has increased to 80 rupees. The value of rupee has reduced now. 75 to 80, पहले से 75 rupees लगने के, लेकिन what is happening now is we need 80 rupees. That means the value of rupee is depreciating. Now in this case, what is happening? You are importing crude oil of $100. You required 75. That means 7,500 rupees. Now how much do you require? 8,000 rupees. That means the prices of goods have moved to the higher side. Therefore, there is condition of inflation. And for inflation, what you remember, quantitative theory of money, inflation high, that means money supply in the market is also high. RBI government does the opposite, money supply in the market has to be reduced. Is it that only these two tools can reduce the money supply? No. We have studied about these two tools, therefore we are applying same tools in all scenarios. But in real life, other tools are also used. So in this case, what will happen is, since money supply in the market is high, our role is to reduce money supply, and to reduce money supply, CRR and SLR has to be increased. This is not so simple concept which I have explained here. There are many simple concepts in the finger. But to give you a simple relation between rupee depreciation and money supply, I have given you the following example. Moving ahead, there is another situation where the purchasing power of money is decreased. This is similar situation as this. For example, earlier, for 1,000 rupees, you used to buy a basket of groceries. Now, for the same basket of groceries, what is happening today here? You are supposed to spend more money, that means approximately 1,200 rupees. So what is happening? The purchasing power of 1,000 rupees earlier you have to buy this basket of groceries, but now you have to spend only 1,200 rupees. That means the purchasing power of money is decreasing. Again, since the purchasing power is decreasing, that means what inflation is high. If inflation is high, that means money supply is high. That is the role of money supply. See? Reduce. How to reduce money supply? CRR and SLR. So I hope you easily understood the tools of reserve, that is CRR and SLR. We have differentiated them. We have also understood how they are used in different scenarios.
Sorry.
So the first
Okay.
of quantitative tools, that is reserve,
Okay.
that is easily understood. And you have to remember three important rules to solve any type of question based on this quantitative tool. So the first rule is quantitative theory of money says that money supply and inflation are directly related. So you have to remember this. Secondly, RBI or government tries to do opposite of the current situation. If the money supply in the market is more, the RBI tries to reduce it. If the money supply in the market is less, RBI tries to increase it. And thirdly, money supply, if you want to reduce, you have to increase CRR and SLR. So these three rules are very important to solve any type of question based and high inflation. So in this case, what is happening is money supply was. So what is the state government or government to do the opposite? That is to reduce the money supply. In this case, what type of policy will you use? Contractionary or expansionary? Or keep high or lose money policy. So in this case, money supply has to reduce. Because of that. So the money supply has to be contracted. It is contractionary money policy, real money policy, or tight money policy. So you have to remember two types of policies which are use: contractionary or expansionary, real or tight or loose. So जब भी contractionary मतलब क्या? RBI is trying to reduce the money supply from the market. Going back to the slide. So contractionary or real money policy is used to reduce the money supply. In this case, what is happening is rate of PRR and SLR, the rate of PRR and SLR will be supply of PRR and SLR will increase. Other tools will discuss later. Expansion or cheap money policy means what is happening? It tries to increase the money supply. Then it will reduce whenever the money supply is then it will reduce in case of deflation. So what happens? In case of deflation and money supply is low, RBI tries to increase the money supply. How? By using expansionary money policy. And in expansionary, what it will do is it will reduce the rate of PRR and SLR. About other things, we'll see again when we discuss about this thing. But now, PRR and SLR is very clear to us. And whenever we want to increase the money supply, what will happen is we need expansionary policy. That means we try to increase the money supply. And if we want to increase the money supply, we need to use PRR. So I hope you have understood these two types of policy. Moving ahead, after understanding the category of reserve, let's understand the tools which fall under the category of reserve. There are three different types of scenarios. That is, there are three different types of interest rates which you have to remember and which are applied on three different situations. These interest rates are decided by the RBI and directly or indirectly control the money supply in the market, affecting the inflation and growth rate of our economy. To start with, there is a situation where RBI provides loan to the bank, and in return, bank does not give any collateral. कोई भी asset bank RBI के पास नहीं रखता. In this situation, the rate at which the loan is given by RBI to the bank, that rate is said to be bank rate. In this case, it is said that it is given without any collateral. And this type of loan is also said to be unsecured loan. So यहाँ क्या रखना है? Whenever there is unsecured loan, the rate which is applicable is bank rate. What you have to remember is whenever unsecured loan is given, the rate which is applicable is bank rate. Now, another situation is when bank is able to provide some kind of security. So that type of loan is said to be secured loan, and it is known to the tool named as liquidity adjustment facility. So the name itself suggests that in this scenario, bank is trying to adjust the liquidity available with itself. So in this case, what it does is bank gives out its government securities or other bonds as collateral to the RBI. And RBI in return will provide some cash and tax equivalent to the bank. But there is an agreement between bank and RBI that this bank will repurchase the government securities from the RBI and provide some extra interest or return on this particular situation. So this kind of loan is given at a particular rate, and that rate is said to be a repo rate. So what you have to remember is, जब भी repo rate की बात आती है, what is happening is RBI is providing loan to the bank, and bank accepts full collateral, that is government securities, to the RBI, and they have an agreement of repurchasing these government securities back from the RBI after some period or duration. So in that kind of situation, the rate at which RBI provides loan to the bank is said to be repo rate. There is one term that is reverse repo rate. So in that case, what is happening is RBI is taking loan from the bank. In that case, what is happening is RBI is taking loan from the bank, bank is giving loan to the RBI, RBI will give some collateral in the form of government securities to the bank, and RBI will have an agreement to repurchase it later. So that is said to be a reverse repo rate. क्या रेपो रखना है? रेपो रेट में क्या होता है? RBI is giving loan to the bank. In repo rate, what is happening? RBI is giving loan to the bank. So reverse repo is a rate scenario. So therefore, only one scenario to remember: repo. Repo में क्या है? Reputation किसका? RBI का. It tries to give loan to the bank. And how does it happen? This government security, this is promised to be repurchased in future period. This loan is given for further repayment. And you have to remember that this is provided under the facility name liquidity adjustment facility. And I added the term rate here because you have to remember liquidity adjustment facility is related to rate, and that rate is nothing but repo rate. So how you have understood two different situations: loan without collateral, loan with collateral, and agreement to repurchase, and promise to repurchase. And that kind of facility which RBI provides to this bank is said to be liquidity adjustment facility, and you have added the term rate to remember that it is related with some kind of rate, and in this situation it is related to repo. So दो terms हमने सीख लिए, दो quantitative tools which we have learned in the category of interest rate. First is bank rate, second is liquidity adjustment facility rate. In that repo rate and reverse repo rate. Repo rate क्या करता है? RBI is giving loan to the in the second schedule of RBI, and there are some criteria to be named as schedule bank. So whenever RBI gives loan to schedule bank, suppose that in this marginal funding facility rate is, you have to remember that this loan is only provided to schedule bank. In that case, the rate at which this loan is provided is nothing but marginal funding facility rate. Here we also have a collateral that is government security, and this government security can be used for SLR purpose. The SLR, when a statutory liquidity ratio is government security by the reserve. That reserve can be used here, and not in this case. In this case, the SLR quota cannot be used. In this case, liquidity adjustment facility rate के case में the SLR quota government security cannot be used. Only in this case, marginal funding facility rate, because it is overnight emergency fund. In this case, what is happening is government security is SLR quota that is used. I hope you have understood three different scenarios and three different rates, three different rates. Bank rate, collateral के बिना, repo rate, which is provided under the scheme of liquidity adjustment facility rate. In repo rate, RBI is giving loan to the bank. And bank is keeping the government securities as collateral. There is a promise of repurchasing the government securities with future. Marginal standing facility only provided to schedule bank, emergency fund, overnight fund. What is happening is bank is getting loans from the RBI, and bank will provide government securities. This is taken from institution to the SLR. If you want to understand the rate at which is higher and which is lower, marginal standing facility rate is the highest. Let's say it is 7%, bank rate will be 6%, and repo rate will be 5%. Why this is higher? And logic is emergency में लगा, whenever there is emergency, higher rate is charged. Why bank rate is higher than repo rate? Because this is unsecured. Security नहीं है, unsecured loan at higher rate. Repo rate is the lowest. So I hope you have understood three things competitive to which RBI can use. Bank rate used to understand liquidity adjustment facility rate or marginal standing facility rate. It can alter any of these rates, and once this interest rate is altered, what we have understood or what we have studied in the previous slide, that whenever bank is getting the interest at higher rate, it will also provide the customer's interest at higher rate, and therefore money supply in the market will reduce. Understanding the difference between reverse repo rate and repo rate. Easy है. Repo rate agreement के जैसे because there is agreement to repurchase the government securities. Whenever the Reserve Bank of India lends to the banks, that is commercial banks, use cash flow to government. So in this case, what will happen is money supply will increase when the lending rate is less. Lending rate यानी क्या? Repo rate. अगर repo rate कम है, तो what will happen? More cash is available to lend, therefore money supply का मत. Opposite is also true. Money supply अगर use करना है, तो repo rate को क्या करना पड़ेगा? Increase. Same we have remembered with CRR and SLR. So just we have to add one more line. Money supply is reduce करना है, CRR and SLR increase करना है.
Careful, my lord. This path is dangerous.
So again, golden formula is modified here. Money supply, if it has to be reduced, CRR, SLR, or any kind of rate, what you have to do is increase. So once you remember this rule, you will be able to solve any type of question based on this scenario. Reverse repo rate में क्या होता है? What is happening is in reverse repo rate, commercial bank is trying to give loan to the Reserve Bank of India. Once commercial banks give loan to the Reserve Bank of India, there is lesser cash is available to the borrower. Therefore, in reverse repo rate agreement, the money supply in the market also. So after understanding the category of interest rate and the quantitative tools which are linked to this category, that is bank rate, liquidity adjustment facility rate under repo rate, reverse repo rate, or marginal standing facility rate, we try to understand the use of this technique or tools in different scenarios as an idea there. First scenario is if there is high inflation in the market. So again, going back to the quantitative theory of money, if the inflation is high, money supply in the market is high. The role of RBI government, reduce money supply. So in this case, want to reduce money supply, what we have remember, CRR and SLR has to increase. But now we have another tool that is repo rate. The repo rate is increase. So what will happen is money supply will reduce. Give you an example. Money supply को भी कम करना है, right? So let's say repo rate is increased. Earlier it was 6%, now it is 8%. How will it happen? We have got here, we have got bank, we have got customer. Earlier the rate was 6%. Bank would give rate at 8%. Customer would buy more loan. Now RBI has increased to 8%. Bank will increase this rate to 10%. So what will happen is the money available is at higher rate. Therefore, less money will be borrowed. So less money is borrowed. That means what? Money supply in the market reduces. Money supply reduces means what? Inflation reduces. Inflation reduces also growth reduces. So I hope you have understood. If you want to reduce money supply, you will have to increase repo rate similar to CRR and SLR. Another situation is money supply is more in the market. Same scenario. If money supply is more, RBI governor tries to do the opposite. Money supply reduce करना है. Formula says CRR, SLR, or repo rate or any other rate, what it has to do is deflation in market, opposite scenario. That means money supply in market is already less. Your goal is to increase the money supply. How? Repo rate. इन सबको क्या करना पड़ेगा? Reduce. So once this is reduced, money supply will increase, the situation will be changed. Rupee is depreciating, purchasing power of money is decreasing. Similar to reserve period experiment, and this is homework for you to connect the dots and let me know
So
in the next
peaceful
lecture
here.
what will happen if rupee is
What is this
depreciating,
place?
our purchasing power of money is decreasing, and what will be the role of RBI and its governors to do in this current situation. So, in this lecture, we have covered two categories of quantitative tools. First is reserve. In reserve, we have covered about ERR, that is cash reserve ratio, and SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. Secondly, in the category of interest rate, we have seen how interest rates affect the
I
money
thought
supply
you
in the
were
market.
Lord
We saw
Jin
three
Loku,
situations
but
where
you're
RBI
another samurai.
gives loan to the bank,
Welcome,
and in
my
these three
lord.
situations, three different rates are involved because
Another
of three
samurai?
different situations.
You haven't
In
heard
case
of
of bank
Lord
rates,
Jin
it is
Loku?
assumed that no collateral
He's
is
a
provided.
legendary
In case of
samurai.
liquidity
I'd like to
adjustment
meet him.
facility, the scheme
When
which is
will he
provided by the
return?
RBI, the
Soon.
rate which is applicable
Join
is
us
repo
for
rate.
dinner.
And in that case,
Perhaps
bank
he'll
provides
share
government
one of his
security
grand
as
stories
collateral.
with you.
It also promises or agrees to repurchase the same government security after a given period of time. And the third type of facility which RBI provides only to scheduled commercial banks is a marginal standing facility, and that facility is only for overnight period. And the rate which is applicable here in case of marginal standing facility is higher compared to
Don't
bank
worry,
rate and
I'm
repo rate.
unharmed.
In marginal
Oh,
standing facility,
I
you can
wasn't
use government
expecting a
securities as
visitor.
collateral
We're
on the
happy to
reserves
have
of
you, of
assets.
course.
So these are the important points which you have to remember.
Thank you.
Another important thing is we have learned three important tools which are
I didn't
applicable in both
realize
the
any other
categories
samurai
of
had
quantitative
survived.
tools
It was
which
a
is used by
fierce
RBI
battle,
to
wasn't it?
control inflation and also
The
to boost
beaches
the
of
growth.
Komatsu
So in the
ran
topic
red
of
with
banking and
blood
finance,
that
we have covered important
terrible
concepts.
day.
So in the coming lecture, we'll study about the
We
remaining
fought at
quantitative
Komodo.
and qualitative tools, and we'll directly go into the type
Of
of questions
course.
that are asked by
Forgive
UPSC.
me,
You'll be
I'm
amazed to know
tired from a long
from this
ride.
lecture, you'll be able to
Please,
solve
have
maximum
Nabe show you the
questions
bath.
that has appeared in the
We can
UPSC in
speak
the
more
past,
over dinner.
and you'll feel confident about this.
Please follow
So
me,
let's
my
see you in
lord.
the next lecture. Thank you.
एक था mo anele wala kay kito pa ila wala
In case of liquidity adjustment facility, the scheme which is provided by the RBI, the rate which is applicable is repo rate, and in that case, bank provides government security as collateral. It also promises or agrees to repurchase the same government security after a given period of time. And the third type of facility which RBI provides only to scheduled commercial banks is a marginal standing facility, and that facility is only for overnight period. And the rate which is applicable here in case of marginal standing facility is higher compared to bank rate and repo rate. In marginal standing facility, you can use government securities as collateral from the reserves of assets. So these are the important points which you have to remember. Another important thing is we have learned three important rules which are applicable in both the categories of quantitative tools which is used by RBI to control inflation and also to boost the growth. So in the topic of banking and finance, we have covered important concepts. So in the coming lecture, we'll study about the remaining quantitative and qualitative tools, and we'll directly go into the type of questions that are asked by UPSC. You'll be amazed to know lesser cash is available with the borrower. Therefore, in reverse repo rate agreement, the money supply in the market also reduces. So after understanding the category of interest rates and the quantitative tools which are linked to this category, that is bank rate, liquidity adjustment facility rate under repo rate, reverse repo rate, or marginal standing facility rate, we will try to understand the use of this technique or tools in different scenarios as an RBI governor. First scenario is if there is high inflation in the market. So again, going back to the quantitative theory of money, if the inflation is high, money supply in the market is high. Role of RBI governor, reduce money supply. So in this case, if you want to reduce money supply, what we have remembered, CRR and SLR has to increase. But now we have another tool that is repo rate. So repo rate has to be increased. So what will happen is money supply will reduce. Give you an example. Money supply को तो कम करना है, right? So let's say repo rate is increased. Earlier it was 6%, now it is 8%. How it will affect? Here is RBI, here you have bank, here you have customer. Earlier the rate was 6%. Bank would give rate at 8%. Customer would buy more loan. Now RBI has increased to 8%. Bank will increase this rate to 10%. So what will happen is the money available is at higher rate. Therefore, less money will be borrowed. So less money is borrowed, that means what? Money supply in the market reduces. Money supply reduces means what? Inflation reduces. Inflation reduces, also growth reduces. So I hope you have understood. If you want want to reduce